Everything is just hunky-dory. You need to believe me when I tell you that this year, 2019, the fight for our existence will be more intense than the past 151 years combined. The way I see it, our current immigration situation is similar to a weak liberal man that's being cuckolded by his wife. Her infidelity is justified by saying, well, we can't sustain our marriage on our own, so we have to bring others in. You just put your head down and smile and call it the tolerant Canadian way as you watch your wife have more and more kids of all different colors that are not yours, as your bloodline slowly fades into non-existence. Oh, by the way, you're paying for all this with the money that you work for, paying the expenses of raising your wife's love babies. From the rumors I've heard, Edmonton Antifa member Rick Well can totally relate to this. But back to this self-destruction in immigration system, I'll tell you how it all came about. You will hear liberals justify the destruction of our sovereignty via the flooding of our country with sewage by saying Canada has always been multicultural and open to everyone. But that's not the case at all. For the first 121 years of Canada's existence, which many smart people consider to be the golden old days, we chose who came here. Only the best and brightest from European countries, and maybe some from Asia and India, were allowed to come here. Third world riffraff and undesirables were kept out. This system was what made Canada thrive and become the great country that it is today. Then, in 1988, none other than Pierre Trudeau signed an open immigration pact with the UN, which made us officially multicultural and made it so that we had to take undesirables too, and not just quality immigrants anymore. They have spent the last 30 years drilling it into our heads that this is the Canadian way, and that it's always been, but that is simply not true. That's what has gotten us to the catastrophic mess that we're in now. They'll tell you that we are all immigrants, and saying that the European and Asian immigrants that came here without asking for a dime and worked their asses off for everything they got and learned English and didn't try to change our culture and traditions are the exact same as the parasites that Justin Trudeau is bringing here now. It's like spitting on every single hard-working immigrant who's come here the past 151 years. It's like for the first 121 years, we were eating top-of-the-line vanilla ice cream. Then, all of a sudden, we were being force-fed raw sewage and being told that it's just the same as the vanilla ice cream that we've been eating all along, and we were just racist and intolerant for noticing the drastic difference. Canada is a free country, an open country where all people can practice their religion freely. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but when the freedom of practice religion loophole was created by our founding forefathers, I don't think people coming here wearing bedsheets and curtains for clothing and covering their faces at citizenship ceremonies and beheading people and raping little girls was exactly what they had in mind. Anybody with half a brain would know they did the freedom of practice religion thing to avoid Catholics and Protestants killing each other, which was a major problem in other Commonwealth countries at the time, like Ireland, for example. But let me make something clear. Any religion that promotes molestation of children and the abuse of women is not welcome in Canada, and I don't care what our Charter of Rights says. Somehow, every single white person in the world is responsible for what happened to the natives and blacks hundreds of years ago, yet not one single terrorist on this earth is responsible for the terrorist attacks and mass rapes happening all over the world right now, present day. That's liberal logic 101. Unless you're First Nations, you don't have the right to complain about the immigrants that come here. We have to pay restitution forever and ever to compensate for our ancestors winning a war in an era where it was normal to conquer weaker regimes and colonize that land. We aren't allowed to have pride in our race because of this. We're the only ones who've shown mercy, and now it's biting us in the ass. Ever heard of the Spanish Inquisition? The Spaniards did a complete genocide on the Aztecs and the Ecuadorians, yet nobody is saying the Spanish aren't allowed to celebrate their heritage. Hard-working Mexicans aren't having to pay taxes off their checks to pay restitution for what their ancestors did. In Turkey, the Turks did a complete genocide on the Armenians, yet there's no liberals saying Turks should be ashamed of their race. In the United States, they showed zero mercy and almost wiped them all out. Yet you don't hear a peep about that getting the States to try and stop our pipelines. It's not given the time of day, nor should it. But here in Canada, they see how soft we are, and they keep pushing and pushing for more. It's the old saying, nice guys finish last. Rings so true in this particular situation. We're being told that our rich British and French culture that founded this country are not to be celebrated or given any credit whatsoever, and instead we have to have some kind of shit mix of everything with no culture, no nothing. It's just it's ridiculous. But it's not the natives' fault, and I no way wish to break them. The left uses them as pawns to push white guilt, which furthers their anti-white globalist agenda. It's no secret that most of the left communist scum who wish for anarchy and the destruction of our capitalist society so that they can have communism here. If that happens, Canada becomes an Islamic country under Sharia law, whichever happens first, you honestly think they're going to give a shit about the First Nations people and continue to honor them and give them handouts or let them be part of the treaty? This new communist or Islamic regime, you thought in residential schools was tough? Try being under Sharia law. They will kill you all, leave your women and children sex slaves. Most of you stand against us, hanging on, disrupting our rallies, easily manipulated because you're on the influence of all this. Someone who actually cares. I say sober up. Get your head straight.
Look who it is. Trouble.
You're on fucking center page, buddy.
Oh, look who's back there.
Lot of our heritage and our way of
I'll
life.
bet.
They constantly say things like, there is no Canadian culture. There is no white race.
Huh?
There is no God. Anybody who tries to tell you these things is nothing but a cultural Marxist scum which has destroyed those very things we real Canadians hold so dear to our hearts. They are constantly trying to destroy our heritage and erase our history by changing history books in schools to push white guilt. Young kids are brainwashed into being ashamed of their great history. In Victoria, BC, they took down the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald, our first Prime Minister, and one of the greatest and most important historical figures in Canadian history, and the cornerstone of our great history. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a piece of shit who doesn't have Canada's best interests in mind. We have a treasonous Prime Minister who is flooding our country with so much sewage, we're practically gagging from the stench. And it's all being paid for by you. Our Canadians are going without it. We hear about Canadian students being removed from colleges, forced to make room for illegal migrants. In Ontario, 21 Canadian students were removed from a school to make way for foreign students. A woman I know who is white and is the only white cashier at Walmart tells me that her supervisor and all the other cashiers are Muslim, and she doesn't get the same hours as them and doesn't get the same amount of breaks as them. And she has to wait sometimes longer to get her breaks because they need their special prayer time. Does that sound fair to you? White people aren't the only ones subject to this unfair treatment and favoritism, by the way. My Mexican friend, Alejandro, who works his ass off for a living, is a heavy equipment operator, came here with zero handouts from the government. He works 12-hour days and tells me how angry it makes him that these parasites are coming here and getting the money that he works for. He makes great money as a heavy equipment operator, but he gets a lot taken off his paychecks to go to these parasites. My Sikh friend Sanjeev, who I chat with at the gym sometimes, joked with me in his thick Punjabi accent. I've been here 3 years. I never get money from government. No once. I work hard everything. My mistake was telling them I'm wrong religion. I should have taken my turban off and say I was refugee, then I get everything from government. And this isn't coming from some white trash racist redneck like the left believes every single person who thinks this way is. This is coming from an immigrant who actually benefits.
I really like the idea, man.
If there really is a need to have so many immigrants come here
was great, man.
every year, it's fine, whatever.
With the Finland
but at least
flag,
have something to offer
yeah,
this
the
country
Finland flag,
when you
right?
come here. Otherwise, you're just the financial part. We don't need
What we got?
Why should Canadians pay a dime for these parasites? Why doesn't Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Kuwait take even one single refugee? They have the money and the resources to take all of them, yet they take zero. Why should we have to sponsor the destruction of our sovereignty, our hard-earned taxpayers' dollars? I'd rather take care of our seniors.
Should go over to the legislative place
That's what
where
we're
they're
doing
at.
when he's done
Yeah,
talking.
before they all take off.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid Antifa to make your job easier.
They don't have to.
Oh, we want to go see them. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
I'd rather see our
Bet,
tax
we gotta
dollars
go.
rebuild the communities and make Canada better.
We're going to be over
Legislature.
there.
This should be Canadians first, imported parasites last. Nationalism, not socialism.
Wobbling all over the place, okay? You don't tell me
Hearing
what to
this,
do.
By the time we get there, we're going to
but political correctness gets in the way of making rational decisions. But don't kid yourself for this. You obviously think Justin Trudeau, Rachel Notley, Angela Merkel, or Malcolm Turnbull, and the other treasonous globalist politicians in the world don't know what they're doing. It's not in the best interest. Of course they do.
All right, let's
They're
go, Mark.
doing this on purpose because they have
Joey,
I want to fucking march on
destroy
you.
us.
I know.
Before they march in here.
Why do you think
Yeah.
abortion and feminism is
they were
pushed
flipping
hard
over there.
white
Ooh.
Western?
That's them.
Or a woman having a divorce, you're being blessed with the opportunity of life, or a man
So we should.
fighting care,
Can I take your picture?
and you aren't going to.
Right on. Thank you.
This gives the government all the
I didn't want to shut up because I would have missed the speech. No problem. Thanks. Thanks, man.
Just like the liberal wives bring other partners.
I like mine.
In order for a social to sustain itself for more than 25 years, you must be able to tell it of at least
It's got the elastic band in the bottom to hold the barrel.
anything less than the culture will decline. What's alarming is Canada's fertility rate is 1.6 kids per family. Homosexuality, abortions, and feminism are huge contributing factors to this deficit. LGBTQ pride and abortion and feminism aren't promoted and pushed anywhere else in the world.
Because then they would be
Meanwhile,
just freaking.
these other cultures in these third world countries are having 8 kids each on average. Beautiful blondes and redheads are on the endangered species list like the dodo birds and the blue whale. The United Nations, George Soros, and the treasonous politicians who work for them are the poachers. A perfect example of this, white South African farmers are being murdered and having their land taken from them. They are real refugees. They would be great additions to Canada and fit in perfectly with us. But hardworking white Christians aren't the desired demographic Trudeau wants to flood our country with. Their pleas for asylum was responded with, sorry, we're full. If you deny that there is a white genocide going on, then you are part of the problem. Just like some of these softer, centrist, conservative types are part of the problem. They're called racists and immediately start panicking and throwing real patriot groups like WCAI under the bus, saying, we don't support hate groups. They're not welcome on our convoy. Even though they know damn well the liberal media who says we're hate groups are fake news. They are cowardly. And some of them as yellow as the vest that they wear. We cannot afford to let cowards dictate our patriot movement any longer. You say you're against the UN migrant act?
He's talking to these guys back here. They're out, they're trying to find us. They're back there waiting for Antifa to sneak up on us. The boys in blue. What's that?
They showed up last night?
Yeah, they did, I guess, but we weren't there yet. But right now they're over at the legislative building. Now there's a whole whackload of them over there freaking out.
Yeah, we just came from there.
Yeah, well, they're still there?
Yeah, there was a bunch of us, well, 4 of us there. Wait for you guys.
Oh,
You
right.
said you'd be there.
Well, we were there, but then they changed their mind.
Even
This way.
Antifa sees right through that phoniness, just like
They're all the green.
Man up and admit when you're involved.
Climate change.
You're not fooling anybody. You just look weak.
Got the text from
Then you
them
get
that we're
groups
being
who are
careful.
super soft on Islam and claim they're only against Sharia law and Trudeau.
Oh, yeah, we've been
And
lost
go
for
soft on
days.
their message in hopes of appeasing Antifa.
Taking off, really?
They won't get
He's over there fucking crying. I can see it already.
Oh, where's he?
Antifa sees that.
Corner.
Oh,
Yeah, I took lots of pictures of him like that. Don't worry. I told him, you're going to be out watching them out for a while, so you get used to it.
With or appease evil people who want to destroy you. It doesn't matter how soft your message is.
well,
The sooner you get that,
Hard in
better.
here.
Since
Hey,
2015,
20
when
no
WCI was founded, we've always had the same hard message. We pride ourselves on being 100% real. We don't wear
Can you bring
yellow
what you
vests and
got?
chant Trudeau must go, or jump on the other trends everyone else is doing. We aren't trendsetters or bandwagon jumpers. Here, get in there. You wear WCI shirts. Let them correct us in the trash.
See you, brother.
Anybody you see wearing this shirt, you can rest assured they're real big with your balls. That's why we roll with groups like Northern Guard, C3, SOO, and real recognizing real. When we do rallies in Calgary, Antifa knows they can't get aggressive with WCI or SOO like they do with Nikita. We would smash them all. That's the only way to deal with them. It reminds me of a great historical American figure who also had his statue taken down recently by Stonewall Jackson.
There they go.
What his idea was, when he was confronted by the enemy, he had to
Oh, is Joey almost done here?
Obviously, we can't do that.
I gotta go stomp some fools out.
We shouldn't ever be soft and show weakness. We should have the same mentality as Stonewall Jackson in some sense. We will kill them by speaking the truth without fear. Their whole game is fear and intimidation. It's shaming you into submission. Try that on WCI Alberta President Darren Thibault and see what happens.
Darren!
Too many of these soft
There he is.
criticize our approach saying, no, you make all conservatives look bad when you say they criticize us for doing what needs to be done, which they're all too cowardly to do. They get us banned from speaking at rallies saying, WCI can't have a platform here. They're white nationalists for real.
I think these guys were telling the cops where we're going next, our next stop or two we're going, so they can let Antifa know we're coming. Don't go home yet.
Do you think you can take your country back by acting cowardly? Oh, you know must go. No one will street. I don't support the own race. They're racist. The enemy is seeing how weak and cowardly you're being, and they're laughing at you and becoming more bold. They're not letting up. They're moving in for the kill. Here's what you need to do. You need to man up. Take some estrogen blockers or testosterone injections if you have to. Start pumping iron.
I'm looking at Joey, wondering how much longer the speech is going on here.
Because you're going to need to actually be strong enough to swing a sledgehammer. And for the sake of your country, children's future, and everything you hold dear to your heart, you need to take that sledgehammer and smash cultural Marxism and political correctness into the fiery depths of hell where it belongs and take your country back. Like I said at the beginning of my speech, in 2019, the fight for our existence is going to be more intense than the other 151 years combined. The state will never be tired. The enemy is moving into position to destroy our sovereignty and replace us, which leaves one question. Are you going to stand up to the challenge, or are you going to look for a place to hide?
Joey!
Thank you.
Oh, buddy.
We're headed to the ledge. Have a good time, guys.
How far is the ledge?
All right. I didn't write a speech, and I'm not going to pretend that I can hold the torch to Joey's speech writing, but I'll leave you with one statement. We must secure our existence and a future for white children.
Yeah! Odin! Okay, let's go stomp some Antifa. That's what I came to do. Yeah, it'd be nice to go together this time so we don't get lost. Be back in a bit.